Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Ridge connects with Carter while Brooke's efforts backfire. According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke Logan believed that fate would rekindle at the Forrester Creations fashion show. However, Taylor Hayes shut the door. The audience recognized the plot tactic of portraying Taylor as a klutz. Taylor's two run-ins backstage at the fashion show were a hint to devoted fans that something important was probably on the horizon, and it did. The next scene in this archaic rivalry was set when Taylor closed the door to the room containing FC's unique works. Brooke was stuck with her adversary in another tasty fight scene, and she was aware that the door had an automatic lock. Forrester touched the scale with his finger. If Taylor finds out that Forrester touched the soapy justice scale, she will be upset. Ridge Forrester, Torsten K., was supposed to be moved by his recent exhibition of Brooke's stunning gown, which she wore during one of FC's iconic fashion shows back in the day. Brooke and Eric saw that Ridge's gaze was focused on the stunning digital picture. However, that was just one aspect of Eric's strategy. With a matching opulent gown ready for the runway, he subtly invited Brooke to be his showstopper. Since Brooke's bedroom got so well known, it seemed sense to follow Brooke as the star of the show. However, Eric aspired to extract that vintage treasure and rouse Ridge from what he believed to be a coma. Taylor Hayes is safe right now. Every soap opera should slow down. This was the situation during the years-long relationship between Steffi Forrester Finnegan, Liam Spencer, and Hope Logan, Annika Noel. After a while, the triangle mentioned above was no longer useful, and a new course was required. To interrupt the loop, John Finn Finnegan was created. The result of the transformation has been positive. Given the history of B&B, it's okay for Taylor and Ridge to be back together. They have been repaired with plausibility, were married decades ago, and have children together. Ridge's continued devotion to Taylor is manageable and will provide Brooke the opportunity to revisit her past, especially Nick Marone, in June. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Ridge connects with Carter while Brooke's efforts backfire. Another relationship is restored by Ridge Forrester. Carter Walton and Ridge view one another as more than just pals. They consider themselves to be brothers. Carter's betrayal was a compelling plot point because his particular decision was uncharacteristic. This was also the case when Carter started dating Quinn Fuller, Eric's wife. St. Victor's alter persona was profoundly affected when Ridge cited Carter's name as being crucial to FC's recent success and expansion. Ridge also assured him that his desire to expand the family's legendary fashion brand was justified. Long-term reconciliation between Carter and Ridge is probably in the cards. Since Taylor can only be seen as her fate, Brooke will continue to work to make sure she serves as Ridge's temporary diversion. In recent years, Forrester, the sage senior statesman of the Forrester clan, had become dangerously impatient. Eric was more irritated than ever after witnessing the never-ending back-and-forth drama between Ridge and Brooke, and he was now prepared to act independently. Eric secretly thought that Brooke Logan and Ridge Forrester were destined to be together despite all that had transpired, including the betrayals, misunderstandings, and broken promises. No matter how tattered at the edges, their bond had withstood more storms than most couples could ever endure, their chemistry was irrefutable, and their history was too deeply ingrained to overlook. Eric wasn't going to take it easy and allow pride or outside forces ruin what he thought was fate. Eric stepped up his attempts to bring Bridge, the iconic Ridge and Brooke duo, back together with a newfound sense of urgency, even if it meant causing some annoyance in the process. He began quietly sowing the seeds of nostalgia by arranging for the two to cross paths, bringing up memories of their favorite times together, and gently reminding them, and everybody else who would listen, of their enduring love story. However, Eric upped his strategy when tact didn't yield immediate results. He started to exert more pressure, setting up secret meetings, controlling events behind the scenes, and even enlisting the help of devoted friends and family members. If it would make Brooke and Ridge realize their mistake, he had no problem plotting a little. Time was running out, Eric thought. He was afraid that they might lose their chance forever if they didn't get back together quickly because they weren't growing any younger. Eric was not going to allow that to occur. He spotted the ideal chance to capture them together, both personally and professionally, beneath the flashing cameras and bright lights as the fashion presentation for Forrester Creations drew near. In Eric's imagination, a large-scale, public reunion would be both inevitable and romantic, and everyone would be watching. Behind the scenes, Eric put in a lot of effort, working with Ridge's kids, selectively leaking information, and exerting emotional pressure. During their heart-to-heart, he reminded Ridge of all the ways Brooke had supported him throughout the years. In an attempt to get beyond Ridge's obstinate pride, Eric made an appeal to his better nature. He pursued Brooke in the meanwhile, catching her in her tracks and giving her fatherly counsel in tactful yet convincing language. He assured her that despite their errors, she and Ridge still shared a unique and lovely bond that merited another opportunity and that true love was worth fighting for. Between sadness and hope, Brooke was influenced by Eric's unwavering optimism. No matter how much Ridge tried to resist it, he too felt the draw. But not everyone agreed with Eric's goal. Sensing the change, Taylor Hayes, who had battled her own fights with Brooke over Ridge, wasn't going to allow Eric to take advantage of her without a fight. Ever devoted to her mother, Steffi also resisted, reminding Ridge of all the hurt Brooke had previously given him. Eric, however, was not deterred. He saw Steffi and Taylor's resistance as just one more challenge to conquer. Although their goals were comprehensible, he thought they were tainted by prejudice and animosity. Eric was determined to bring Ridge and Brooke back together and establish love as the cornerstone of the Forrester family's heritage. On the night of the fashion show, Eric's ambitious plan came to fruition. Eric had planned for Ridge and Brooke to give the last showstopper jointly without their complete knowledge. The memories and feelings swept over them as they stood backstage, clad in Forrester's finest couture. The link was indisputable, and the strain was evident. The crowd gasped when it was their turn to walk the runway, not only because of the breathtaking designs but also because of the way Ridge and Brooke reached for one another out of instinct, their hands automatically entwining, their eyes meeting with a mix of sorrow, need, and unmistakable love. From the wings, Eric looked with a gleam of victory. He was aware that the world was watching a legendary love tale that had been tumultuous but never destroyed rekindle. Eric didn't waste any time after the show amid the giddy applause and flashing cameras. Speaking with unusual sternness, he drew Ridge away. He was direct in telling Ridge that happiness was not something that should be continuously put off. Opportunities for genuine, enduring love were even more few because life was brief. He exhorted Ridge to quit denying his emotions and to acknowledge what everyone else could see, that he still had a deep and abiding love for Brooke. Ridge grappled with the enormity of it all, feeling both emotional and torn. However, the genuine and loving comments of Eric struck him more deeply than he had anticipated. Although Ridge wasn't the type of man who readily took orders, he couldn't help but feel the weight of Eric's authority. Brooke, meantime, found herself confiding in Donna and Katie without realizing the father-son exchange. She acknowledged that although she worried more heartache, she still harbored dreams of a future with Ridge. Knowing how deeply she felt, her sisters urged her to have bravery. They told her that risk was always a part of true love and that perhaps this time would be different. Brooke and Ridge were both filled with hope as a result of Eric's encouragement. The wheels were turning more quickly than either of them had anticipated, and before long, they would have to face their actual emotions. Although Eric's gamble was paying off, he was aware that more work needed to be done. He organized a secret dinner at the Forrester mansion, inviting only Ridge and Brooke, under the pretense of celebrating the fashion show's success because he was determined to see Ridge totally reunited. With lighting, soothing music, and sentimental accents all around, the scene was beautiful. Taken by surprise, Ridge and Brooke found themselves slipping back into old, comfortable routines, laughing, remembering, and finally facing the hurt and love that still held them together. Eric quietly observed in the background, his heart bursting with anticipation. However, Ridge and Brooke were never straightforward. Everything threatened to fall apart as old wounds, anxieties, and doubts reappeared. Eric, however, did not waver. He intervened once more, this time with genuine candor, reminding them both that forgiveness and second chances were what made life beautiful and that their pasts didn't have to define them. Speaking from personal experience, he encouraged them to avoid making the same mistakes by acknowledging his own regrets and lost loves. Ridge and Brooke were profoundly impacted by the intensely emotional and potent event. In the end, Eric's unrelenting efforts to get Bridge back together marked a sea change. The love between them was evident, even though it was still unclear if they would be able to truly reconcile and create a meaningful future. Long-shut doors had been opened by Eric's unwavering faith in their relationship, his readiness to overcome opposition, and his ability to plan possibilities for healing. With the prospect of a real Bridge reunion at last within grasp, fans at home were giddy with anticipation. Eric Forrester had once again shown why he was the center of the Forrester family. He was a man who knew that love was always worth fighting for, no matter how beaten and damaged it was. Steffi lashes out at Ridge and Liam's strange roommate is revealed. The weekly predictions for Bold and the Beautiful include Steffi Forrester nudging Ridge Forrester and Liam Spencer finding himself in an awkward roommate situation. We'll talk about Taylor Hayes and Ridge as further forecasts. Carter Walton and Hope Logan as well. Finally, as we go closer to the May Sweeps 2025 on B&B, there's something crazy going on with Finn and Liam. Will Ridge and Taylor remain together? Therefore, our first Bold and the Beautiful prediction is that Ridge will stay with her mother when Steffi guilt-trips her. Steffi and Taylor, who were irritated, learn on Monday that the showstopper was actually a different outfit intended for a real model. Brooke Logan pulled a quick one with her accomplices. Ridge confronts Eric Forrester about his stunt with Brooke on Tuesday. Ridge is conflicted over Brooke's behavior and Eric's remarks on Wednesday. Additionally, in the teaser, Ridge tells Eric that he is dedicated to Taylor as Eric continues to push him toward Brooke. Thus, it is evident that Ridge is the target of plots by his father, Eric, and all of the Logan women. It appears that none of them respect Ridge's autonomy. No means no, whatever happened to it? Steffi requested her father to swear he wouldn't break her mother's heart when Taylor and Ridge initially got back together, and he did. However, he might. Ridge gets a guilt trip from Steffi. Ridge's daughter Steffi, who doesn't trust the Logans, might put pressure on him following Brooke and Eric's stunt. She fears that Ridge would become irritated with them. I believe Steffi will accuse the Logans of plotting and remind Ridge of the vow. Steffi might put on a big show of guilt. However, I must add that Ridge shouldn't pick his partner because one of the women he is thinking about is ill. It's unfair to him as well. However, Steffi will probably bring up all of the ways Brooke has previously harmed Ridge. She won't mention all of the ways Ridge has harmed Brooke in the past, of course. But as Steffi puts pressure on her father, she will explain that Taylor has always supported him. Although we know it won't happen on B&B, I'd love to think that both women will leave him. Predictions for Bold and the Beautiful: will Ridge continue to date Taylor despite family pressure? Our second prediction is that Ridge will continue to be with Taylor. Thus, Eric tells Ridge to go back to Brooke in the week's promo. It's where you belong, Eric claims, yet he also claims to be committed to someone. Ridge makes it extremely apparent that he is with Taylor. Thus, Brooke is enmeshed in her destiny, and this is encouraged by Eric, Donna Logan, and Katie Logan. Together with her, they are co-conspirators. Ridge, however, will not be coerced. As he always does when pressed, he will dig in his heels. I believe he will reprimand Eric. He will pay attention to what he has to say. However, Ridge will reaffirm his commitment to Taylor to Eric. Additionally, Ridge is probably going to reassure Taylor that he is still with her on the Bold and the Beautiful. He will let Brooke know that her plan didn't work. Perhaps Ridge has finally matured and understood that he must stop hesitating. Additionally, Brooke might not have as much access to Ridge at work. Because he doesn't think he can trust her, he might stop seeing her after this. Ridge's fashion show, his showstopper, and his designs were all taken over by Brooke and Eric. And Ridge has probably had enough. By the time Nick Marone arrives in Los Angeles in June, Brooke is still hurt and alone, according to the teasers. Therefore, Brooke doesn't win Ridge, at least not for the time being, regardless of whatever team you're on. Liam's strange decision on B&B, cohabitating with Finn and Steffi? Thirdly, we think Liam will move in with Steffi and Finn. According to Bold and the Beautiful teasers, Hope is dubious of Liam's new living situation on Thursday. However, it doesn't provide specifics. Liam also advises Hope to get back together with Carter on Friday. Liam might move in with Steffi and Finn, I think. They have a guest home, but it's not in the guest room down the hall. She now lives with Ridge at the Forrester home, where her mother once resided. Thus, Steffi might want Finn to closely monitor Liam's brain tumor. Additionally, Steffi will want Liam to make the most of his last time with Kelly Spencer before he passes away. Naturally, if things proceed this way, Hope is really perplexed by the prospect of Liam remaining in their guest house because it just seems strange to live with his ex-wife and her current husband. She is obviously unaware of the tumor. At least not yet, Liam hasn't told her. Hope might therefore question whether Liam is hatching some strange scheme to win Steffi back. Although Brooke Logan has always pursued her goals, her desperation has recently been more apparent on The Bold and the Beautiful, and viewers worldwide are wondering, why is Brooke so desperate? In actuality, Brooke's actions are not unexpected, rather, they are the result of years of emotional struggles, heartache, betrayals, and an almost desperate urge to finally find the type of stability and love that she has spent the majority of her life pursuing. Deeply ingrained anxieties of rejection, abandonment, and the passing of time itself are the core causes of Brooke's sense of urgency, her inability to let go of Ridge Forrester, and even her impetuous desire to assert herself against women like Taylor and Daphne. Although Brooke has created a life filled with heartbreaking lows and passionate highs, she feels as like she is perched on a precipice right now. Her increasingly desperate attempts to cling to the things she feels she can't live without are a sign that every error, regret, and postponed desire is now catching up with her. The lengthy and complex history Brooke has with Ridge is a major source of her despair. A part of Brooke has never really come to terms with the possibility that their relationship could end, even after their innumerable breakups and reconciliations. Ridge has been the great love of her life. Brooke reacts the only way she knows how when she witnesses Ridge retreating, whether it is due to Taylor's presence, family conflict, or his own inner turmoil, by battling, plotting, and exerting more effort. She believes that she is battling for her future and is not being desperate. However, it's obvious from the outside that her dread of losing Ridge again is impairing her judgment. Every grin he offers Taylor and every pause feels like a dagger to Brooke's heart, and she tries to force fate's hand by tightening her grip instead of letting him go. It's the same old Brooke cycle, but this time there's a deeper undertone, the worry that perhaps, just possibly, she's run out of opportunities. Beyond Ridge, Brooke's hunger for significance, not only in Ridge's life but also at Forrester Creations and in her family, fuels her desperation. Although Brooke has always been a force to be reckoned with, as the newer generation, which includes Hope, Steffi, Thomas, and even Luna, rises to prominence, Brooke occasionally comes off as a holdover from a different historical period. She has fought for a seat at the table for so long that she believes it is evaporating and is now more determined than ever to claim her place. Brooke is fiercely defending her position in the Forrester empire, whether it is by planning fashion show moments, interfering in boardroom disputes, or snapping at alleged rivals. She fights with all of her remaining power because she fears being marginalized and called past her prime, even if it makes her appear more and more desperate. Brooke's interactions with the other women on the canvas, particularly Taylor, provide even another dimension to her desperation. Brooke has never completely trusted Taylor, even after their brief ceasefire and attempts at friendship. She secretly believes that Taylor poses the greatest threat to her happiness since she is the one who has the ability to take Ridge away and because she embodies all the qualities Brooke worries she lacks: stability, nurturing, and calmness. Brooke feels her own fears grow worse every time Taylor exudes poise or strength. Brooke became envious when Daphne, a younger, more refined woman who seemed to attract attention with ease, joined the picture. It's not only about Ridge, Carter, or any one man, it's also about Brooke's deep-seated anxiety that she is losing her significance as a matriarch, a professional, and a lover. Her desperate attempts to regain a sense of security and superiority in a society that appears more determined than ever to move on without her are more than simply small-scale rivalries with Taylor and Daphne. The complex relationship Brooke has with her kids, particularly Hope, makes things even more difficult. Brooke's own mother instincts are triggered as she sees Hope battle heartbreak, betrayal, and uncertainty, but she also feels guilty about it. Brooke worries that Hope will make the same mistakes she has made in the past. Her desperate attempts to influence Hope's decisions and keep her from experiencing heartbreak with guys like Thomas or Carter are motivated as much by her want to save Hope as they are by her desire to save herself. She might be able to help the younger version of herself in some tiny manner if she can save Hope from making poor decisions. However, Hope, like Ridge, is resistant to control, and Brooke's increasingly desperate advice frequently goes unheeded, which only makes her feel more powerless. The constant burden of appearances feeds Brooke's escalating emotions. Perception is crucial in the high-stakes world of the Forrester dynasty and Los Angeles society. For many years, Brooke has worked to project a strong, glamorous, and resilient persona. Brooke finds it difficult to acknowledge her fragility, her fear, and her loss of control. Instead, she uses audacious statements, snap judgments, and outward acts of defiance to cover up her dread. In a desperate endeavor to keep up the appearance of control, she snaps, acts rashly, and occasionally undermines herself. On the inside, though, she's collapsing, afraid that all she's worked so hard to achieve is slipping away. The most tragic aspect of Brooke's despair may be that it stems from a dread that is universally shared by all people, the fear of being alone. Relationships with Ridge, her kids, and her family have always been a part of Brooke's identity. Her anchor has been being wanted and loved. In its absence, she feels lost. Her recent behavior, including her unrelenting pursuit of Ridge, her conflicts with Taylor and Daphne, and her meddling in Hope's affairs, is all the result of a persistent, deep-seated anxiety that she is nothing if she isn't someone's everything. Under all the cunning and bluster, Brooke is just a woman who wants to be loved, respected, and selected, which is why it's so devastating. Brooke's recent desperate descent is heartbreaking and infuriating to those who have seen her soar and fall so many times. While some viewers applaud her for finally finding contentment and serenity, others scoff at her failure to grow from her mistakes. There's no doubting that Brooke's desperation makes for gripping entertainment, whether you like her or not. Because of her messiness, flaws, and humanity, she continues to be one of the most recognizable characters on The Bold and the Beautiful. Her difficulties reflect the common anxiety of time passing, unmet expectations, and lost love. There is more to Brooke's desperation than Ridge, Taylor, or Forrester creations. It is the story of a lady who is scared that she might lose everything she has worked so hard to create and is battling to the death to keep it. Brooke's path is expected to be as turbulent and emotional as ever as The Bold and the Beautiful progresses. Will she be able to restore her happiness and dignity without wrecking herself in the process? Will Ridge pick her again after recognizing the true lady behind the desperation? Or will Brooke have to make the decision to live without the assurances of love and loyalty she has always desired, the one dread she has never been able to confront head-on? There is little doubt that Brooke Logan's struggle with desperation, with all the drama, heartache, and surprising turns that have made her narrative iconic for decades, will make for must-watch television no matter what happens next.